Hello, today I'm going to show you how to make cornstarch goo. And what this goo is, it's a thick liquid which becomes hard when you apply pressure to it. I've already got some cornstarch here. It's just any old cornstarch. You can also use potato starch. It doesn't really matter as long as it's starch. Well, it could be some very fine sand because that's what quicksand is. But when we are not going to make quicksand, we are going to make starch goo. And now when you have your starch, you want to apply water to it. Be careful not to add too much water because I've made that mistake and I ended up wasting a lot of cornstarch. So very slowly and carefully. And of course, once you have added your water, you want to stir it around. Really get them mixed up. Yes, this should be fine. As you can see, it can be quite messy because when you try to move it around, it really doesn't want to because it becomes hard, like I said, when you apply pressure to it. Now maybe a little bit more water there, just nice. Hopefully that's not too much. Yeah, that should be quite fine. Have to be very careful with this. And of course, the more water you add, the softer it gets. Now it's a bit too hard. I can't really show you how it works because it just doesn't want to move. Again, just some water. Yes. Like I said, you can just make whatever type of goo you want. You can make some super hard goo, or if you want, you can make it a very liquid goo. Personal preference. But now I have this goo. It probably doesn't show very well here, but it's flowing. I'll try to get it. You go away. I love you, but you are kinda on the way. Bye bye. Stay there for a moment. Yeah, that was white cat, if you didn't see. Like I tried. No, I have this. Look at it. It flows through my fingers very nicely. It's gooey. It is a goo. And the fun thing is, like, if I try to take it, I have to press. Now it flows easily. And like I said, it's annoying to work with, but quite fun. It's very hard to show on video. Just know that it's fun. You can do it on your own at home if you want to. It really isn't hard unless you apply pressure to it. Gotta eat. Anyway, how does this work? Like, why does it do this? It's because the starch molecules are very mixed up with the water molecules. So when you apply pressure to it, the long starch molecules trap the water molecules between them and they become hard. And as you relieve the pressure, the molecules are free to move around and they will start flowing. Now can you see that it's, there's hair in here. Anyway, this is very similar to quicksand, like I think I mentioned that at the start, that we could make quicksand, because quicksand is very fine sand mixed with water, and so when you stand in it, you so slowly sink, and when you try to lift your feet, you get stuck. You can simulate it with this goo as well. It's kind of hard because this is a very shallow container, but if I put it in here, it's very liquidy. Trying to show it, and if I put my fingers like feet in it, it's very easy. It's almost like water. It's like super like liquid fluid, and if you try to lift them very quickly, it really resists it. Can you hear that? Look, easily move when you move slowly, and slow. It's harder to move when you move quickly. So quicksand and this goo are what are known as non-Newtonian fluids. And why are they non-Newtonian? It's because Isaac Newton discovered viscosity. Viscosity means the resistance a fluid has to flow. So if it flows freely, very easily, it has low viscosity. If it doesn't flow, it has high viscosity. Water naturally has quite low viscosity. We all know that water flows easily here. But and a good example is honey. Honey is quite high viscosity. It flows very hardly. Well, it hardly flows. But the thing about Newtonian fluids is that if you apply heat to them and heat them up, their viscosity lowers. So if you have honey and you heat it up, it flows a lot easier. You can test that as well. I haven't tested it, but I trust the internet. But now quicksand and this goo are non-Newtonian because pressure raises their viscosity, which of course isn't true for something like water. If you try to apply pressure to water with your hands, like it flows just as easily, it doesn't affect it. But here it really does. It feels like almost solid when you try to apply pressure to it. You can tear it basically, even though it is a fluid. It's quite interesting, and it feels dry if you try on the top, but it isn't. Yes, but like I said on the beginning, you don't have to use cornstarch. You can use potato starch as well, and you can actually extract starch from potatoes very easily at home. I haven't done it because, well, too much work. No, well, it isn't a lot of work, but it is easier to just buy cornstarch and use that. But if you do want to make this from potatoes, you will just have to take potatoes, grate or cut them into very fine pieces. It doesn't really matter what method you use. You can use a lawnmower if you want to. I advise not to. That would be dangerous and it would become filthy, the potatoes. But I guess you aren't going to eat them, so that doesn't really matter. Anyway, once you have very fine pieces of potatoes, you want to throw them into a pot of warm water. Then you want to stir them around. You want to stir them enough so that the juices and starch come out of them into the water. And then you want to separate the pieces from the water. And you can reuse the potato pieces again. Just throw them in warm water, stir, take the water out, put like more warm water and stir again. Of course, the more you reuse them, the less starch you are going to get from them each time. But if you really want every last bit of starch from them, you can do this multiple times. But once you have that water with all the starch in it, it should be colored like brownish. Once you have that, you want to just let it sit. Around 20 minutes should be fine. And once it has sat for some time, the starch will have sunk to the bottom. And then you can carefully pour the water out, and then you should be left with wet starch. So you don't even have to apply water again because there was of course water to begin with. So that's some very easy way to do this if you don't want to make it even easier, of course this is the easiest way, but if you really want to, you can use just potatoes. I don't know, does it work with corn? I'd assume it kind of does if you just cut those little pieces of corn into even smaller pieces of corn. But yeah, it's very easy to make, it's quite fun to play with. It's awfully excruciating trying to clean it, because the harder you try to clean it, the more it sticks, and it's just awful. But it is quite fun and it is easy. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.